in just an ordinary human mother. Yet I found myself caught up in this world filled with supernatural powers. Chapter 29. Lillian scrambled up, swaying a bit on her feet. The warrior steadied her and stepped back. Noah stopped in front of her, not saying a word. The warmth his body usually did seemed to double tenfolds. The heat of him a physical blanket enfolding her. When his fingers touched her chin, Lillian knew she wasn't imagining it. His skin was scorching hot. Fine. It's just a little scratch. He looked over her shoulder. Lillian's hand circled his wrist, squeezing until his attention returned to her. Fine. Noah, she said more firmly. It was an accident. All right. He closed his eyes, heaved a deep breath, and when he opened them again they were no longer blazing with fury. Then he took her in his arms. Lillian's breath froze in her lungs. Enthusiasm, in that moment, Noah was bigger than life itself. His broad chest beneath her cheek and his strong arms across her back a shelter, so solid it felt as though nothing could ever hurt her again. He buried his nose in her hair, and Lillian forgot about all the eyes watching them, and melted against him. Violet had never shied away from Lillian's touch. She even sought it out on several occasions. So Lillian was more than bewildered by the incident. The fights must have brought up bad memories. Lillian had her fair share of those herself, so she didn't blame the young girl. 30 minutes later, Lillian was sitting in the infirmary, her cuts cleaned and bandaged. Fortunately, they were shallow, so no stitches were needed. They won't leave any scars, Ava said, putting the bloodied pads she had used to wipe Lillian's cuts in a small tin on the floor. Then she lit it on fire. Whoa, was that necessary? Lillian said, eyeing the flames warily. Noah, who hadn't left her side. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Blood is very powerful. I which could do a lot with someone else's blood, which is why we try to never leave traces of it anywhere. Ava added, taking her gloves off. It's a necessary precaution in our world. A habit you two should start adopting. Lillian nodded, remembering on her very first day here how Katrina had used her blood and her son's. So, Ava said, how did this even happen? I know Violet is very fond of you. She wouldn't have hurt you on purpose. I'm not sure myself. Lillian frowned. But you're right. She didn't do it on purpose. I think the fighting spooked her. Eva's eyes shimmered with sympathy. She looked at Noah. We should get them started on counseling sooner. I thought maybe giving them a little bit of time to settle down first would be nice, but... Noah rubbed his jaw, a frown tugging down his brows. Yes. Let's hope counseling helps, especially with Violet. She was in captivity for a very long time. Lillian's heart ached for the girl who had some of the most beautiful years in her life stolen from her. That's the period when a person is shaped. To spend it locked up in a dark dungeon, being forced to fight the only people you knew until you were the last one standing, being drugged, beaten, and possibly abused in various other ways. It was something Lillian cowled and wrapped her head around. She truly had immense respect for Violet's spirit. The girl had survived trials beyond Lillian's imagination and came out on the other end. If not unscathed, then alive. I should go see her, Lillian said. Keanu had taken Violet to their cabin before Lillian and Noah headed to the infirmary. Noah pushed to his feet and taking Lillian's hand, he pulled her up. I'll go with you. To Ava. I'll have Lisette call the counselor. If they're not preoccupied, they should be here in a few days. Noah didn't let go of her hand all the way. It looked so pale and small against his. They walked through the woods, the steps easily. When you say a counselor, you mean psychological counseling? Noah nodded, the light of the afternoon sun playing on the glossy black of his hair. Yes. Why do you sound surprised? I just never thought. Lillian snapped her mouth shut. He slanted her gaze filled with humor. You never thought that even monsters need psychological counseling. It's just that you guys seem so invincible. I forget that even if your bodies are invulnerable, the mind is not. Lillian squeezed his hand. And you're not monsters. Whatever makes you think that? A long silence. His jaw ticked. We are monsters. We're just too good at hiding it. And counselors usually drop by a pack once a year if nothing urgent demands their presence. There is one counselor per region. For example, the packs and covens of the west coast of North America all have one counselor that makes the rounds over the course of the year. Lillian hummed her understanding. He glanced at her, his gaze on her bandage leaden with guilt. I'm sorry you were hurt. It's not your fault. And it's not Violet's fault. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nelben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. So don't be mad at her. I'm not mad at her. You're not. Lillian asked, bewildered. Earlier, in the training grounds, he looked royally pissed off. Noah stopped, making Lillian do the same. He searched her eyes, then shook his head. Why would I be mad at her? Incidents like that happen. I'm mad at myself, because I should have foreseen it. Being near a fight would set her off after what she'd been through. I'm responsible for the safety of my pack, and he gulped, his fingers coming up to graze her an injured cheek. Then, in a voice gone gravelly, he sent her heart racing out of her chest. And my mate, Lillian stopped breathing. It was the first time either of them addressed the elephant in the room. Lillian was sure he knew she was aware of the mating game between them, but she kept putting off discussing it. Coward that she was, now looking into his expectant gaze, she had a feeling she was teetering on an edge. She could very well stay safe on her side, living her life as she had been doing, caring for her sons, being an nondescript member of the pack. Or she could jump. She had no doubt Noah would catch her, but her life would unquestionably change. Being Noah's mate could not be easy. Was she ready to take the chance? Amber gave her the answer she needed. Lillian would never meet a man like him as long as she lived. He was loyal to the bone, strong beyond her comprehension but still gentle, amazingly caring and affectionate under the reticent facade he always wore. And he cared for her boys like they were his own. Lillian's smile was hesitant. She squeezed his hand, and his eyes shone with emotions she couldn't yet decipher. Oh yes, he was absolutely worth it. Why me? Lillian asked the question that had been bugging her ever since Jennifer had made her face the truth. Noah's lips quirked up in a small but sure smile that took her breath away. Dear God, he needed to keep that thing in check. Let's just say my wolf is one stubborn bastard. Noah replied. Lillian felt her stomach drop. Your wolf? Was it only because of his wolf? Noah's face softened. It's not just my wolf. You know how the mating game starts. Right. Yes, and filled me in. Then you know that it's not only the wolf who makes the decision. It's true that the wolf's instincts steer us toward a person, a potential mate. But nothing is set in stone until the man in us agrees to pursue that person. And let me tell you, I spent a lot of time arguing with myself and denying my attraction to you, thinking my wolf's instincts had gone wrong for the first time in my life. But you proved me wrong. You're the kindest, strongest, infuriatingly stubborn female I've set my eyes on. Lillian rolled her eyes, though her cheeks were burning. Thanks for the compliment. You're welcome. His smile widened a notch. He stepped closer until only a few inches separated them, and she could feel his warmth surrounding her. So, will you give me a chance? Lillian smiled back, feeling suddenly shy. Who was she? He was turning her into a simpering female. She rested her head on his chest, hearing the steady beat of his heart. I guess I can't wait to put up with you. His chest rumbled with what Lillian thought was a chuckle. But surely, she was wrong. Noah, laughing. Good, he replied. Now all I have to do is get the blessings of the two other men in your life. Lillian laughed, looking up at him. Just get them some brownies and they'll give me up in a second. Noah's eyes shone with amusement and another emotion she could only describe as joy. You underestimate them. I don't think it'll be easy to convince them to share you with me. But I'll do my best. There's something. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nelben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Lily-Anne's mood turned serious. You have to understand that the twins will always come first for me, and I wouldn't have it any other way, Noah said. Lillian breathed out a sigh of relief. It felt as though a load had been lifted off her shoulders. She hadn't even known she was apprehensive about discussing the mating thing with Noah. But now that it was done, she felt unbelievably lighter. Have dinner with me, Noah said, taking Lillian by surprise. You and the twins. My place. Oh, Lillian hesitated, then shrugged. Why not? Sure. Good. Noah nodded, his face still lit up with a bitty smile. He bent his head and pressed a lingering kiss to Lillian's forehead, his lips a pleasant warmth on her skin. God, he smelled so good. Up close. Lillian was surrounded by his earthy scent and the pleasant aroma of the homemade coconut shampoo Jennifer made for the whole pack. Noah and Lillian resumed their walk to Violet's cabin. When they reached the pack village, people eyed them with knowing grins that made Lillian's face grow hot. Someone hooted. Another one shouted, Nice going. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Lillian groaned and put her hand on her eyes. Noah's growl was only half-hearted. Fortunately, Violet's cabin was that deep into the village, so Lillian didn't have to endure any more teasing. Kira opened the door. The flutters in Lillian's chest fizzled out at the sight of the grim lines of the wolf's face. She's in her room. She didn't want to get out to eat. I left her a plate, but Kino shrugged. Go in, Noah urged Lillian. You'll have a chat with Kino. Leaving the two behind, Lillian knocked on Violet's door. When she received no reply, she slipped inside and closed the door behind her. The room was dimly lit, the daylight coming through the window darkened by the dark, green curtains. The twins' eyes' bed was pushed against the wall right under the window, a bedside table next to it, the door of the closet on the opposite side. The room was stark and impersonal. Hopefully it would grow more alive the longer Violet lived here. Lillian focused on a small huddle between the bedside table and the wall. A plate of food lay untouched on the floor in front of her. No reply. Lillian didn't approach. She sat down on the floor, her back against the door. Violet made no movement to indicate she was aware of Lillian's presence. Knees pulled to her chest, forehead down on her knees, arms locked around her legs. Violet was still as a statue. The food will get cold, Lillian said. You should eat it while it's warm. But I guess if you're not hungry yet, we could save it till later. I heard Jennifer helped in the pack house's kitchen today, so I'm sure the food will be absolutely delicious even if it's cold. Still no reaction. Lillian sighed, leaned her head back on the door and closed her eyes. On instinct, she started humming a familiar tune. Lydia used to hum it when she helped Lillian with the twins as babies, and Lillian learned it. It still worked to this day to get them to fall asleep. A few minutes into it, Lillian heard a rustle of clothing. She didn't dare open her eyes or stop humming. She kept entirely still. The clock ticked by. Lillian didn't know how much time had passed when her head rested on her shoulder. She smiled so wide her cheeks hurt. Lillian slowly leaned her head on Violet's and kept humming until all tension drained out of the girl's body. Lillian whispered, It's all going to be okay. You didn't do anything wrong, sweetheart. I'm fine. Just a couple of scratches. Violet whimpered, her knuckles going white around her legs. Lillian's nose tickled. She blinked back her tears. How she wished she could take away all the girl's demons. I know you're sorry, sweetie. I know you didn't do it on purpose, Lillian said. Violet made a faint growl-y sound at the back of her throat. Lillian smiled, turned her head and pressed a kiss to the soft brown strands on top of Violet's head. What to eat? Lillian asked. You must be hungry. Violet nodded. She crawled on her hands and knees to get the plate of food, then called back in Lillian's sigh again. The sauteed vegetables and roasted venison smelled divine, reminding Lillian that she hadn't had lunch yet. She linked the twins to check on them. They were already at Jennifer's place having lunch there with Johnson and Anna. After a tentative first bite, Violet dug into the rest of the plate. Isn't it? Violet nodded, holding the plate up to her face. Her manners were those of a child, bringing to mind the fact that Violet had spent most of her childhood and all of her teenage years in captivity. Violet wolfed down the food in mere minutes, as if she was afraid someone would take it away once she started eating. What in the world had happened to her in that place? Do you want more? Lillian asked, taking the empty plate from Violet. The girl shook her head. Then, eyes shimmering with regret, she touched a finger to Lillian's bandaged cheek. It doesn't hurt now. Lillian smiled, the motion pulling at the gauze. Besides, now Noah and I will match for a little while. When Lillian walked out of Violet's room, the girl followed behind her. Noah and Keanu were at the kitchen table, both nursing drinks. The strong aroma of coffee filled the cabin. Violet was practically hiding behind Lillian, her hand clutching the back of Lillian's shirt. Noah stood up and walked up to them. Violet whimpered. She was afraid of Noah. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "Sweetie," Lillian whispered over her shoulder. "A cheer's not going to hurt you." Noah stopped a few feet away, closing his eyes. He took a deep breath. His exhale thumped down his shoulders and the shin from his body. For a moment, Lillian blinked, feeling a pleasant haze blanket her mind and slow her heart. Her breathing deepened, and every knot in her muscle loosened. She could feel Violet behind her do the same. Her grip on Lillian's shirt slackened. Noah opened his eyes, and Lillian shook her head clear. He held out his hand toward Violet. The girl took a hesitant step forward and blinked at Noah's hand. After a few seconds, she put her hand in his. Noah pulled her toward him, and closed her in a loose hug. Violet flinched, but when Noah's hands remained gentle and patted her back and hair in a fatherly, affectionate manner, she slowly put her head on his chest and heaved a sigh bigger than her. Lillian caught Noah's gaze over Violet's hair and smiled at him. How could he ever think of himself a monster? Beneath all the muscles and power, he was such a gentle soul. He would never use his strength in harming an innocent. Lillian's chest throbbed with an unnamed emotion, both new and yet so very familiar, tearing down walls she had built over the years, and stitching Noah's name in the deepest, most intimate corners of her heart. When they finally left the cabin, Violet seemed much better. She looked at Noah with new eyes, as if finally coming to believe that someone so big and powerful could be gentle and good. "What was that?" Lillian asked as they headed to the pack house. "Back there. How did you do it?" "Get her to relax. It's an alpha thing. When the alpha feels agitated or angry, it reflects on the members of his pack around him. The same applies when I feel relaxed, so I use it to my advantage. When someone in the pack is too angry, I could help calm them down if I project my mood on them." Lillian nodded. It must be one of those alpha advantages he had once told her about. "I talked to Keanu about Violet," Noah said. "Since she was taken very young, I wanted to know how much she knows about the world. If she can read and write, for example." Lillian frowned. "She needs a lot of help, doesn't she?" Noah nodded, his brows shadowing the light in his eyes. "You'll talk to Anna. Get her to work with her, but she might need you during their first sessions. It would also be good for Violet to spend time around other people." Lillian added, "What better way to learn than to watch?" Lunch was still in full swing in the pack house. Lillian and Noah took their trays to the backyard and sat on a bench under an old fir. Minutes later, Sean, Jake and David joined them. "What happened to your face?" Jake asked before he even sat across from her. "Just a little accident." Quite a few people had witnessed the incident. Surprisingly, news hadn't reached Jake yet. She didn't want to paint Violet in a negative light now. Jake's dark eyes were still confused, but he let it go. Avos sat next to Lillian, and Sean next to Jake. So Lillian said, desperate for a change of subject, "What exactly is that little guy popping out?" Ava patted her belly, a fond smile on her pink lips. Very soon. Are you done with that crib yet? Sean asked Noah. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. It just needs some finishing touches. Eva nudged Lillian then. She was looking at the far edge of the backyard where a few bench tables were scattered, mostly empty. When Lillian followed her gaze, the sight drew a wide grin on her face. Robert and Jasmine were sitting together, their sides touching from shoulder to hip. They had their backs to Lillian, but she could recognize Robert's red head anywhere. Eva gave Lily a playful smile. Hopefully, we'll have a few mating ceremonies by the end of the year. Eva winked. Lillian almost choked on her food. Jake barked out a laugh, and Sean was barely holding in his. Lillian didn't dare look at the towering figure by her side, but his intense gaze branded her cheek. Lillian shot Eva a death glare. The doctor grinned, unrepentant, the rosy glow of pregnancy highlighting her cheeks. Jake was still laughing when Lillian looked at him. Her lips twitched up in spite of her. The man was always in a good mood. It was difficult not to smile looking at him. She threw a green bean his way. He caught it with his mouth and chewed on, wiggling his eyebrows. Show off, Lillian muttered underneath her breath. Jake grinned. He was so cute Lillian could believe he was Noah's master of arms. With his boyish features, his brown eyes and dark hair, he was built more like a track runner than the rest of the huge, muscled warriors in the pack. But Lillian wasn't fooled by his lanky disposition. She'd seen him spar, and he was ruthless. Well, someone is a little green, Eva muttered, looking over Jake's shoulder at a table where Phoebe was sitting with a few other warriors. Lillian blinked when her eyes met a piercing glare. Whoa, if looks could kill. Eva, Sean warned softly. Eva shrugged at her. So I wasn't imagining it, Lillian said, ignoring the brunette's glare in favor of her tasty food. Imagining what? Jed, glancing over his shoulder. I don't think Phoebe likes me very much, Lillian said. She had noticed Phoebe's scowls on more than one occasion, but for the life of her, Lillian couldn't remember whatever she had possibly done to be the object of her ire. Hervé scoffed. Of course, she doesn't. She's jealous. A light bulb went off in Lillian's head. Her brows shot up. Oh, Noah closed his eyes for a second. He looked past Lillian at Eva. Yes, dear brother, Eva replied in a saccharine voice. Noah shook his head, murmuring something under his breath. Seeing him so needled was a source of great amusement to Lillian. So he and Phoebe had history. Lillian couldn't lie to herself. She did feel a little prickly. Okay, very prickly. The thought of him with someone else made her want to stab her fork in that someone's eye and tear it out of its socket. Lillian hummed vaguely, stabbed a few beans with a little more force than necessary, and shoved them in her mouth. She looked up to find everyone at the table staring at her. She raised her brows, swallowing her hastily chewed beans. Sean whistled a tone. Jake held his hands up and Eva went back to eating. Noah was busy cutting the meat on his plate. Calm down. This sudden urge to be violent was not reasonable. The wolves must be rubbing off on her. She took a deep breath and blew it out, reminding herself that of course Noah would have been involved with someone on several occasions in his life. But in the end, Lillian was the one who got him all to herself. She actually felt sorry for Phoebe and the rest of the unmated female population. Noah was hers. Lillian held dearly to that thought. She was better than to stew in an irrational fit of jealousy. But Phoebe was of Lillian's opinion. Apparently, the glint in the other woman's eyes was borderline psychotic. Lillian smiled widely at her, waving her fingers. Jake choked on his food and David chuckled. Phoebe's head reared from shock. She scoffed, the glare never parting ways with her face, and looked away. Really? Noah? Lillian couldn't help but say, what in the world were you thinking? I would have expected better from you. Phoebe didn't seem like the type of girl sane men associated with. To be so hung up on someone even though she knew he was in the mating game with another person is quite petty. To be honest, considering the fact that mating is a very sacred thing in their world. Lillian sighed. She shouldn't judge someone based on what she herself thought was happening, so she tried not to let any ill feelings toward Phoebe breed in her heart. Sean and Jake's shoulders shook with suppressed laughter. Noah dragged a hand down his face. I guess I was thinking. Probably. Lillian nodded. After lunch, everyone went back to their business. Lillian checked on the twins first. They had a feast with Anna and Johnson, and barely stopped to talk to her before rushing to where their friends were waiting by the lake. Lillian gazed after them, feeling utterly bereft. They rarely spent as much time together as they did when they were living with humans. But as soon as the thought entered her head, Lillian chased it away, feeling silly. Being in the pack was good for them. She could see the effect on them every single day. They were glowing with delight, always excited, their wolves more present in their eyes than ever before, living like healthy little pups, the way they should live. Back then, they rarely ever went outdoors, never spent time with other kids their age, and only shifted in the confines of their home, never stretching their little paws in a free run. They would have spent the rest of their childhood in a cage, so if the price was spending less time with her, she could bear it. Lillian spent the rest of the afternoon doing paperwork, going from her office to scenes to Noah's, where Seth was a permanent resident. Noah only dropped by his office for a few minutes. He spent the majority of his time out and about around the pack in the territory. She came to learn that he hated sitting still in a confined space for too long. It suited him, she thought. He was too wild to be sitting behind a desk. Lillian was replying to any mail, thinking of how shocked the people she mailed would be if they found out they were communicating with a human. When a knock sounded on her office door. "Come in," she called. Noah walked in, closing the door behind him. "Oh hey." He came around to sit on her desk beside her. The cooler wood groaned under his weight. "I'm going to pick up the twins for our dinner together, so don't worry about them." "You sure?" Lillian asked. "They could be a handful if you're alone. You've been handling them for 5 years." "I'm sure I can manage for an hour. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilbel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "Should I bring something?" "Just yourself. You know the way to my cabin." Lillian squinted her eyes, thinking back on the way there. Noah's cabin was a bit secluded from the other cabins. "I think I know the way, but just to be sure, I'll ask Kate to come along after our workout." Noah's body stiffened. "You should rest." "I'm fine." "Noah." She pointed to her cheek. "They're just scratches, and I'm sure Kate won't be going hard on me today. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilbel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "You were sick yesterday, and I'm fine today," Lillian said more firmly. "I could use a good sweat." A tick in his jaw. Noah looked away. Lillian narrowed her eyes at him. "Don't you dare link, Kate." He cleared his throat, ran a hand down his face and heaved a deep sigh. "You're impossible." "Pot kettle," Lillian replied. She shooed him away. "Go on. I need to finish this. Kate will be waiting," taking her by surprise. He leaned down until they were nose to nose. Lillian held her breath, frozen in place by the look in his eyes. His nostrils flared as he searched her eyes for what seemed like forever. Then he kissed the tip of her nose, straightened up, and walked out like nothing happened. Lillian stared after him like an idiot. Her throat suddenly parched, her heart skipping wildly. She touched a finger to her burning nose, her breath coming out in a whoosh, surprised when she searched her feelings to find she was actually disappointed. For a second there, she thought he was going to kiss her, and she wanted him too. Dear God, she was in trouble. Lillian shook her head. He would be speaking with the twins about the mating thing between them. Lillian smiled. She wished she could be there to see the twins' reaction. Chapter 30. When is Mommy coming over? Noah looked over his shoulder at Elida. Just like his brother, the pup's lips and chin were painted a chocolate color from the brownies they had just wolfed down. She just finished training. Noah put the foil over the garlic steak and potato pan he brought from the pack house. She'll take a shower, then she'll join us. He had linked Kate only a few minutes earlier. The warrior told him they had finished the training session. Since Lillian was injured, they kept their training light. No sparring until Lillian got better. Noah might or might not have had a word with Kate about that. But it was before Lillian had warned him to butt out of her business. So technically, it didn't count as going behind her back. He had stopped by Jennifer's place to pick up the brownies she'd asked her to make earlier that afternoon, then picked up the twins from the gang of mischievous pups near the lake. The entire way to his cabin, they had eyed the container of brownies with greedy blue eyes. As soon as they climbed up the kitchen island stools, he set a couple of plates in front of them, and they dug into the brownies like their lives depended on it. Having them in his home gave Noah a sense of rightness. He wished they could live here permanently. They would give life to his doll house, with their sweet scents and lively banter and intense energy. But it was too fast. No matter how much he wanted to have the twins and her mother settle in with him, he had to remember that was a normal human. She was still one. He needed to take things slow. Take things slow. He was great at it. Right. The feel of her skin was a torturous sweet memory. Noah shook his head. Not the best thought to have around to pups with a sharp sense of smell. Noah dampened a kitchen towel and went around the island to wipe the twins' faces. When he was done, he sat across from them, folded his hand on the surface and regarded them seriously. I need to talk to you boys about something important. Ezra sat back in his chair. Elijah knelt on his stool, leaning on the island with his palms. Identical confused eyes looked back at him. Do you guys know what mates mean? They both nodded. Miss Liv told us all about it the other day, Elijah said. Noah doubted that. Liv would have given them the kids' version, like Miss Anna and Uncle Johnson. Ezra said. They're mates. Yeah, Elijah added, wrinkling his nose. People who do the kissy stuff. Miss Liv said when we grow up, we'll have mates. But I don't want to. The kissy stuff is so icky. The kissy stuff, Noah asked, trying hard not to smile. Yeah, we see the big girls and boys do it around the pack. Ezra's expression was disgruntled. He obviously shared his brother's feelings on the matter. It's disgusting. Noah made a mental note to check if the juveniles paid attention to their surroundings when they went around necking in the woods. The pups had apparently seen something. Right. It was surprisingly difficult to find a way to tell them their mother was his mate. So he just did it. Your mom and I are mates. Twin blinks. Then round eyes. Does that mean you're going to kiss Mommy like Johnson kisses Anna? Right. Back to the kissing business. Noah rubbed his jaw. If your mom is okay with it. But Elias' mom and dad are mates. Ezra frowned. So if mom is your mate, does that mean you're our dad? Crap. Why was this so damn hard? Noah didn't want to say something about the subject without her consent. He wanted to tell the kids that yes, he wanted to be their father. Well, Noah said, it doesn't always happen that way. But it does mean that we'll be a family, just like Elias and his parents. So we'll live together. Elijah asked. Hopefully, in the future. Yes, but our cabin is small, Ezra said. Does that mean you'll sleep with Mommy? Yeah, I guess. Twin frowns. The pups looked at each other for a long moment. A mental discussion was taking place, no doubt. Then they fixed their worry eyes on him. What's wrong? Noah asked. Elijah pursed his lips. Ezra replied, if you're Mommy's mate, she's going to spend more time with you. And then she won't have enough time for us. Oh, hell. Noah's heart squeezed. That's not true. You will always be the most important in your mom's life. She'll always have time for you. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Promise? Elijah asked. You won't take her all for yourself. Noah said. She'll be your mom first, and my mate second. How does that sound? After a moment's thought, the twins nodded. Elijah heaved a deep sigh, and their simultaneous reply, identical to their mother's earlier that day, made Noah grin. I guess we can put up with you. The back porch of Noah's house was littered with all kinds of woodworking tools and wood planks he had cut a few days earlier to make a rocking chair. He usually kept all his woodwork in his shed, but despite the shed's windows, he was unable to stay in the confined space for more than an hour. The twins were very interested in the work. They watched, wide-eyed, while he explained how to hammer nails properly without getting hurt. Feminine chatter and the scent of spring and fire drifted with the evening breeze, tantalizing Noah's senses. A few minutes later, there was a knock on the front door. Your mom is here, Noah told the twins who were arguing on who would try the hammer first. Let's go open the door for her. Twin disappointed faces, but they nodded and raced through inside. He put the hammer away, thinking that Lillian wouldn't outwardly lose her mind if she saw the twins near any of the sharp tools on the floor. It wouldn't matter to her that their sharp reflex would make injuries improbable, nor that any injuries would heal quickly. Noah entered the house just as Elijah opened the door. Lillian smiled down at the boys, a sight that never failed to catch Noah's breath. Her face glowed with adoration whenever she looked at her sons. Today she was even more breathtaking. Unlike her usual ponytail, her hair was down around her shoulders, the strands still damp from her shower. Dressed in a pair of blue jeans and a knitted white sweater, she was a sight for sore eyes. She took her time to hug the twins and kiss their cheeks. What is that I smell in your breath? Lillian asked, her arms around the twins. Did someone give you brownies? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nolban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Elijah giggled, pointing a finger to Noah. Noah did, but Nella Jennifer was the one who made them. Smiling blue eyes looked up at him. Are there any left? Noah nodded toward the fridge. Make yourself at home. Lillian straightened up. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nolban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Noah was showing us how to hammer nails. Lillian's brows shot up. Hammer nails. He met her alarmed eyes and nodded yes. Do you want to see? I certainly do. The twins ran ahead of them to the back porch, falling into step beside him. Lillian whispered, hammering nails. Are you sure it's safe? Don't worry, Noah replied. Their reflexes are lightning fast, and even if there was an injury they would heal in no time. Pups are too high strung most of the time. This is a good exercise to build up their patience and attention span. The boys were almost bouncing on their toes when Noah and Lillian finally joined them. They did not touch any of the tools. Good boys. Lillian sat down on the floor, leaning against the cabin wall, and he resumed the lesson. He was happy that the twins truly enjoyed working, especially Ezra. The little pup's eyes bore a characteristic sharpness. Sometimes, he seemed much older than his 5 years of age. Noah joined Lillian on the floor after assigning each one of the boys a specific task. He mirrored her position, stretching his legs alongside hers, sitting as close as he could without dragging her into his lap. The thought was appealing, but he settled for breathing in her sweet scent. You're good with them. Her eyes trained on where Elijah was sawing a piece of wood on a bench. You've been doing this for long. Noah nodded. Since I was a pup. My father used to work with me like this. As soon as the words left his mouth, Noah blinked in surprise. How long had it been since he last spoke of his father? The thought was a vice around his heart. There were good memories, but they were buried under all the ugliness that marked the end of his father's life. He almost forgot there were good times. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nolban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. All he seemed to recall was the blood and the cruelty. He looked at Lillian. She had a way of bringing light with her wherever she went. She looked up at him for a long moment. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nolban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. His throat suddenly dry. He wanted to tell her about his parents, but the words wouldn't come. She smiled, her eyes reflecting the setting sun with flecks of gold and coral. I appreciate you doing this. I wouldn't have thought of it myself. They need someone who knows their limitations. My human nature will probably keep me from letting them explore their true limits. You're doing a great job, he told her. I really hope I am, she whispered, her eyes moving to the twins. Half the time I don't know what I'm doing. You are, Noah said firmly. Don't doubt yourself. You're a good mother. She glanced at him with a grin. You're good for myself, Esteem. Looking at Elijah, Noah said, To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Milburn, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Keep your left hand behind your back, son. Elijah's left hand quickly went back to its place behind his back while he continued to saw. The bench vice holding the thick piece of wood in place for him, just like Ezra's, was scrunched up in an adorable focused frown. Lillian's pulse stuttered. He glanced at her, but she quickly looked away and focused on the twins. The smell of steaks he left in the kitchen wafted to Noah's nose. He brushed to his feet. You'll go check on dinner. Can I help with something? No, just keep an eye on the twins, Noah said, touching his fingers to her hair. They'll call when it's ready. Dinner was done. Noah set the table, occasionally glancing through the back door at Lillian and the twins. Lillian had joined them, and the two boys were showing her the right way to do things. The features solemn and proud. They no doubt felt like experts on woodworking compared to their mother. Their laughter spilled into the cabin, filling Noah's heart and making his house a home. Noah called them in. Lillian helped the twins wash their hands in the sink before joining him at the table. The sky was darkening to deep orange and purple shades as the sun disappeared behind the trees. It smells heavenly, Lillian said, dishing Ezra a hefty dose of meat and potatoes while Noah did the same for Elijah. You really are a great cook. I can't claim this one. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Milburn, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Randall made it, Noah said. My cooking skills are limited to breakfast. As he pointed a fork at him. You've been luring me with false promises of good food when all you can cook is eggs. Did it work? What? Luring you, Noah said. Did it work? Lillian pressed her lips together, but her eyes lost the battle against the smile. I'm afraid it did. And it has nothing to do with your cooking. Noah walked Lillian home, each one of them carrying a sleeping pup. The full moon reached through the trees and touched her face with silver fingers, igniting her pale skin with a sheer glow. I had a chat with the twins before you showed up, Noah said into the night. About what? About us, Noah replied, staring down at her. She chuckled, the sound whispering with the breeze around them. I can only imagine how such a talk went. With the 5-year-olds, Noah nodded, remembering the twins' reaction. As long as I agree to not monopolize your attention, they're happy to put up with me. Their exact words. Lillian laughed heartily at that. They reached her cabin too soon. After settling the pups in their beds, Lillian walked Noah out. They stood in the shadows of the porch. The faint lights at the village more than enough for Noah to see Lillian's every feature with clarity. She stopped on the first step of the porch, leaning a hip on the railing. Noah one step below. The dinner was amazing. Noah, thank you. And the twins had a lot of fun. You're welcome, Noah replied. He was still taller than her, but a higher ground made her closer. I hope we can do it again. Lillian smiled. I'd love to. Noah forgot what they'd been saying. His heart was pounding to louden ears for him to focus on anything but her sweet and spicy smell. Lillian's throat bobbed. Her pulse fluttered in her neck. When her eyes flickered to his lips, it took all his efforts to not snatch her up in his arms and devour every sweet inch of her. He grazed the back of his knuckles to her cheek and leaned closer, closer, until their breath was one. He rubbed his nose against hers. She closed her eyes and stood on her tiptoes, bringing them closer. Slowly. Take it easy. A mantra Noah repeated to himself, but when his lips touched hers, all words jumbled in his mind. His control hung by a flimsy thread. The last of his walls tore down, and every drop of pain and darkness in his guilt, drenched soul dissolved. Warm and sweet and addictive, she was beyond everything he'd imagined. He snaked a hand to the back of her neck, her hair velvety underneath his palm. God, she was so sweet. Nose muscles bunched, his body almost shaking by the effort to hold back. They drifted apart, their breathing heavy. Her eyes fluttered open. Noah searched her gaze, finding only the dark embers of passion and the warmth of longing reflected in hers. She smiled, her face radiating heat, then put her head on his shoulder, a weight he would readily bear. Noah smiled. He circled his arms around her, burying his face in her hair. Thank you. His voice rough, a soft laugh, her hands cool against his chest. No. Thank you. The next day, Noah woke up feeling like he ruled the world. The first thing he did after breakfast was shift to his fur and go for a long, hard run, tongue lolling out. He strolled to Lillian's cabin in his fur, padding up the front steps. He was aware of his pack's amused interest around the village and the twins' excited chatter inside the cabin. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Noah linked. Can you open the door? Soon the chatter inside ceased. Quick footsteps approached. Before the door was pulled open by Elijah, the pup's hair was still damp, and he was wearing only a pair of shorts, barefoot and naked from the waist up. He grinned and launched himself on Noah's wolf, wrapping his arms around the wolf's neck. He dangled like a little monkey. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Noah's here, Elijah announced to his mother. Lillian was in the kitchen, looking put together in jeans and a sweater, her hair a knot on top of her head. She looked over her shoulder and graced him with a smile. I can see that. Her cheeks tinged a delicious pink when their eyes met. She nodded to the table. Did you have breakfast? Noah bobbed his head in a nod. Elijah waved with a movement and giggled. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Who was sitting quietly at the table, drank the rest of his milk in one gulp, and rushed to join his brother, calling all over Noah's wolf, who was more than happy to play along. Lillian chuckled. She shook her head and went on with tidying the kitchen. Noah's wolf plopped down, careful not to hurt the twins. He growled playfully. They growled back and jumped on his back with an oomph. A few minutes later, Lillian approached. She stopped a few feet away, hands on her hips. Boys, you better go put on your clothes or you'll be late. The twins stopped moving, Elijah under one of Noah's massive paws, and Ezra on top of Noah's head. Can we go like this, Mom? Please, Ezra asked. It's hot outside. Can we not put on a shirt? Elijah added. Lillian opened her mouth, then closed it with a sigh. Okay, but put on your shoes. Come on. Now the twins ran toward the door where they pulled on their sneakers. Noah stood up on all fours, shaking his fur, then walked to Lillian and brushed his length against her, rubbing his scent all over her. She laughed, running her fingers through the fur on his neck when he curled himself around her. Good morning. Noah growled in reply and pushed his muzzle in her neck. She squeaked when he licked her pulse. Stop. He pulled his head back for a second, met her laughing eyes, then went back to licking her neck. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. That's about enough. She took his head in her hands, then tugged on his ears, drawing an annoyed growl out of him. She grinned. We need to get going. Noah shook his head and headed for the door when the twins had just finished putting on their shoes and were jumping on their toes. Mommy, Miss Leaf said we'll go see the training rings today, Elijah said as his mother closed the cabin door behind them. Lillian looked back at the twins, then at Noah. Oh yeah. Noah nodded. then nudged her body with his and shook his head. Lillian smiled at him, proving once again that she was getting good at reading him. Okay, I won't worry. He flashed her a wolfish grin, his long fangs no doubt doing a meager job at making him seem friendly. But Lillian didn't seem to care. She tugged one of his ears again, and rushed down the steps before he could retaliate. Noah growled, his wolf loving the chase, and pounded after her, enjoying her laughter and that of the twins as they ran after them. Someone is in a good mood today. Noah looked up at Sean and hummed. His brother was leaning on the office's door frame. Noah's good mood obviously didn't go unnoticed. Earlier, when he walked into his office, the set shot him a knowing grin. Being as talkative as Noah was, the little brunette didn't utter a word, but her face said it all. You're making me seem like I'm always grumpy, Noah grumbled, looking over the document Lisette handed him. He hated paperwork. Standing by his desk, Lisette coughed, a dimple flashing in her cheek. Sean snorted. Well, you are. Did you want something? Noah asked. I just stopped by to see you. Sean replied with a wide grin. The whole pack was talking about how you chased Lillian around the pack. It's a rare sight. You know, seeing your wolf play like that. All wolves were playful. Noah was no different. He just never felt the desire to play with someone else. Lillian brought out all the good in him. His lips twitched, remembering how winded she had been when he finally decided to catch up to her. She was fast for a human, though nowhere near a wolf. Her laughter was infectious as she lay on her back, gasping for breath while trying to evade his wolf's licking attempts. The twins had joined, jumping on top of Noah in an attempt to rescue their mother. Only Lillian ended up with 3 wolves on top of her. He attacked his paperwork with renewed vigor. As soon as he was done with this, he had more business to attend to, from performing the blood for the 3 new wolves, to checking the hunting schedule with Randall and Kate. He couldn't wait for the evening to come. Chapter 31. Lillian was on cloud 9. She couldn't remember the last time she had been so happy. She floated through the field to Robert, who spent no little amount of time exacting his revenge by teasing her. So he wiggled his eyebrows as soon as she walked out of the shed in her work clothes, with a straw hat this time. How's Alpha? Lillian grinned. She's delightful. How's Jasmine? Robert scowled. You're no fun, he grumbled. Lillian chuckled and patted him on the back while passing him by. She had been on the receiving end of so much teasing in her past. The harmful kind, that Robert's well-meaning jokes were a welcome breath of fresh air. No, really. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Lily uncrouched near him with her own basket and scissors. Lettuce was better picked up so early in the morning when the leaf was still crisp, or so Robert had told her. Robert sighed, his hat hiding his face from Lillian's view. It's not easy. You know, I'm still fighting against myself. Jasmine doesn't give 2 cents about all my worries about dominance. The problem is me. It's more difficult to fight something within than it is to fight someone else. Lillian hummed. She had a feeling he needed someone to vent to more than advice. Not that she could give him much. She had barely spent a couple of months here. She was by no means the best person to dish out advice about dominance and mate courtship. And vent he did. Robert rambled on for about 10 minutes while their hands were busy. It was the longest she had ever heard Robert speak. Lydia offered him a good ear. By the end of it, Robert sat back on his heels and looked at her in silence, his grey eyes clear under the shade of his hat. You know, you're going to make a good alpha, Lillian sputtered. Dear yeah. No, I'll leave the alpha nest to Noah. Thank you very much. Lillian could barely manage the twins. A pack of wolves. Yeah, right. Robert laughed. Don't worry. You won't be asked to take over Alpha's job overnight. You'll grow into it. Lillian pointed to Robert, then to the plants. As your future Alpha, I command you to do your job and stop talking nonsense. Robert's laughter rang about the field, but his words brought up an entirely different subject to the forefront of her mind. one she had not given much thought to ever since her discussion with Noah on the evening of game day. Would she want to turn into a vampire? That was the only way to turn herself into an immortal and avoid breaking Noah and the twins' hearts. The twins would be okay. Lillian knew. Hopefully she could be in their life until they were grown men. But what about Noah? Lillian knew by now that mates were for life. That very few people who lost their mates managed to form another mate bond in their lifetime. The loss was heartbreaking. Lillian could see it from the constant sadness that hovered in the corners of Jennifer's eyes whenever she was lost in thought. And in Noah, as big and strong as he was, there lurked a deep grief and a sense of loss in the most hidden parts of his soul. She had seen glimpses of the pain and darkness in his eyes at times, and try as she might, she couldn't bring herself to abandon him because of her aversion to immortality. Lillian sighed and looked at the lake as she and Robert resumed work in easy silence. Who would have thought that she'd be clinging to life when only years ago she'd been on the brink of giving it up? Lillian squinted at the lake. Hey, am I imagining it? Or is the lake receding? Robert's head popped up from behind a row of green. He grinned. Yep, it is. About time. It's going to turn into a pretty meadow by summer. Lillian wiped her sweaty brows, her eyes on the sparkling water. Deciding the fate of her own humanness would have to wait. She would give herself more time to enjoy glorious life as it was right now. The rest could wait. So who's the lucky one? Lillian asked, stretching her arms. Kate could barely hold back her grin. They were in a ring in a corner of the training grounds, away from everyone else. This late into the afternoon, pack members spilled into the grounds, either to watch or to train. Lillian would start sparring today. I had a really hard time recruiting a volunteer. Referring to picking up Lillian's sparring partner. I know I'm not that scary to fight. Lillian told Kate. So why? It might have something to do with your mate. Kate mumbled. Lillian squinted at her. Do tell me more. He kind of told us to go easy on you. She hurried to add. Don't be mad at him. It hasn't been the easiest time. What with your injuries and the kidnappings and everything. And him human. Lillian added. Kate shrugged. Lillian sighed. As much as she hated to admit it, she wouldn't stand a chance against a wolf in a fight. They were just stronger, faster, and more well-trained. Oh, I am going to be mad at him. But that's neither here nor there. Who's the brave soul who decided to risk the Alpha Sire for the sake of my training? Here he comes. Turning halfway, a warrior came closer, separating from the crowd. Broad-shouldered, black-haired and kind, looking. He smiled when his eyes met Lillian's. Blake, Lillian asked. Hey, I hope you'll go easy on me. His crooked smile put Lillian at ease. Blake here is still in his trial period. Slapping the other warrior on the back as he stood beside her. So HE's not going to chance Noah sending him back to his old pack by putting a scratch on you. Lillian snorted. That's exactly why he shouldn't be the one fighting me. I need someone who's not afraid of Noah. We're not afraid of Noah, Blake said. We're afraid we'll hurt you. That's why no one really volunteered. But you did. I was actually responsible for training young juveniles back in my old pack. So I know a thing or two about holding back. He winked. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Lillian slowly nodded, glancing at Kate. Should we begin? Kate stepped out of the ring. Lillian didn't think they'd need the entire space of the ring. Blake could literally run circles around her. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Kids. Like we said before. Lillian, if you can, always avoid a direct fight with an immortal. If you can run, do it. However, there might be circumstances where you have no choice but to fight. This is what we're training for. We're taking it easy today. Blake, I just want her to get a feel of what a fight is like. Got it? Blake nodded, his smile melting away. Lillian took a shaky breath, her heart racing. Her muscles were rigid ice. She forced herself to move first. Otherwise she would stay in place until Blake ran her over. Lillian blinked, and Blake was in her face. Lillian was not proud of it, but she squealed. Blake's knuckles gently touched her cheek. Lillian stumbled back. Only weeks of strengthening her muscles kept her from falling on her butt. Ugh, that was so embarrassing. Blake gave her an apologetic look and stepped back. Come on, Lillian. We weren't braiding each other's hair during our training sessions. Kate's joke pricked the bubble of Lillian's nerves. She threw Kate a glare and took a deep breath. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She had to start somewhere. Stop over, thinking. Lillian leaned on the routine Kate made her perform until she dreamed about it. She lunged forward and made the first move. Blake easily dodged her punch. Her next kick connected to his side, but she might as well have kicked a rock. Her leg hurt. Instead of hopping away on one leg like she wanted to do, she put it on the ground and swung her left hook, putting her weight into it. Blake, no doubt realizing now that her human strength was laughable, didn't dodge. He simply guided her fist away with the back of his hand. As if swatting a fly, he reached with his hand as if to grab her, but Lillian jumped away. Good. The fight, if it could even be called so, went on like that until Lillian collapsed on the ground. Not from Blake's attack, because he didn't even touch her, but from sheer exhaustion. You're not bad, Blake said, giving her a hand to help her up. You're just human. Lillian finished, stumbling to her feet. He was trying to be nice. Bless his heart. Blake rubbed the back of his neck with a sheepish smile. You're inexperienced. There are a lot of humans who could hold their own against immortals, but those are usually trained individuals with years of experience and a superior athletic build compared to the average human. You'll get there, but it's going to take time. Thanks, Blake. Anytime you need a sparring partner, you let me know, Blake said. He'll be glad to help. Lillian gave him a winded smile. He walked away after a salute to Kate. Lillian wanted to lay down on the ground and sleep right then, but she must preserve what was left of her dignity. Fortunately, very few people were interested in their fight. Rightfully so, it was very underwhelming. So no one witnessed her fall from grace. Hey, brighten up. You did well enough. Throwing Lillian a bottle of water, Lillian caught it with a trembling hand. You're not the one who fell on her ass, she grumbled before draining half the bottle. Blake is right. You need time and training to become a good fighter. Your body is already adjusting quickly. Hell, a few weeks ago you cowled and even throw a proper punch. Lillian sighed. You're being awfully nice this fine evening. Kate chuckled. Shut up, you idiot, and stop comparing yourself to other pack members. They're immortals. You're doing well. Besides, it's not like you're going to stay human for the rest of your life. Kate's last words rang in Lillian's head on the way back to the cabin. She took a less traveled path winding by the lake. She wanted a clear head and a few minutes of solitude to mull over everything. Turning into an immortal. Lillian sighed. Who would have thought she'd be considering the idea so seriously? Her neck pricked lead. Lillian stopped. It felt as though someone was watching her. A chill pebbled her skin. The woods around her were growing dim, the decreasing water of the lake murky under the grey dusk. She looked around. In the distance, voices and laughter rang, settling her heart. She was in the middle of the pack. No one would hurt her here. She rubbed her arms, her eyes swinging from shadow to shadow. The sensation of being watched slowly vanished. She shook her head and continued down the path home. Are you all done? Lillian jumped 10 feet into the air, her mouth open in a silent scream, putting a hand on her poor heart. She gave Noah a withering look. His amber eyes looked dark under the growing shadows. Are you trying to kill me? Because I don't know about you all, but humans do get heart attacks. He had the nerve to look sheepish, separating from the shadows. He closed the distance between them. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, Thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Are you okay? Lillian blew out a breath and pushed her hair back. She was hungry. Her sweat had cooled down to an icy layer, and still a little freaked out. Not the best combination. If I don't get a shower and food in the next minute, I will not be responsible for my behavior. Other than that, I'm doing fine, Noah grunted, his warm fingers brushing her own. How did the sparring go? Lillian groaned. You may have to reconsider your courtship if you don't want your mate to be a weak-ass fighter. His lips twitched. You can be a weak-ass fighter. I'm good enough for both of us. Very humble of you. Her sorry mood was quickly lifting. Lillian closed the distance and hugged him. He froze for a fleeting moment before his arms wrapped around her, swallowing her small frame. Noah flooded her senses. His earthy scent, his steady heartbeat, his sturdy chest and the rise and fall of his breath. Noah's scorching warmth chased away the bite of the evening cold and of her impending decision. She missed him, and she had only seen him that morning. So I heard all about how you scared pack members into not sparring with me. He cleared his throat, his arms tightening. I didn't scare them into anything. I simply cautioned them to be careful with you while fighting. Was there gloating involved in that cautioning speech of yours? He hesitated. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nelbe, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Lillian shook her head and leaned back. You need to learn how to deal with me getting hurt. His chest rumbled. I will not do that. I cannot do that. Then how am I going to learn? You can learn and stay safe. Lillian gave him a bored look. She rose on her tiptoes and kissed Noah. This was one argument she wouldn't be winning very easily. Lillian gave up this battle. Plenty of days to win the war. Noah's hand squeezed Lillian's. The twins pounded up the steps of the cabin ahead of them. He could still feel her taste. And he wanted more. Lillian was generous with her affection, whether with her pups or with other people she cared about. Those people included him too. Much to his joy, she didn't spare her smiles and hugs and kisses. Touch was an essential part of her life. It was as if she craved it. And maybe she did. Growing up as she had. The twins opened the door and barreled inside the cabin. Noah stopped. Lillian frowned at him from the doorsteps. Did you forget something? No, he said. Well, then, get in. She pulled him inside as if it was the most natural thing in the world. As if he had every right to be there. She bent down to untie her shoelaces. It tends to get cold if we leave the door open too long. Without even looking, Lillian called out, To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Do not touch the chocolate pudding in that fridge. Young men, Elijah and Ezra, were deep in sneaking to the kitchen. They stared at their mother's back in utter astonishment. I told you she has eyes in the back of her head. Elijah whispered in a voice too low for Lillian to pick up. That's stupid. Ezra replied just as quietly. I checked yesterday. She only has hair. Well, how does she know? Noah wiped the grin off his face before Lillian straightened. She went into the kitchen. The twins glued themselves to her legs. Mu-on, Elijah said. Nope. Dinner first. Lillian ran her hand over the twins' heads, then pulled a covered tray out of the fridge. Your Nana Jennifer made us her delicious lasagna, and we won't have it go to waste. Noah moved. Why don't you go shower? I'll heat it up and watch over the twins. Hands still holding the dish. She looked at him like he was a saint. Are you sure? Yes, go. You're a lifesaver. She kissed his cheek and gave him the lasagna. Noah looked at the twins after their mother hurried to her room. They didn't look bothered by her display of affection towards him. The twins took turns climbing up a stool near the sink and washing their hands while Noah moved about the kitchen. They spoke to him about their day and hounded him with question after question. Noah's heart threatened to implode from the amount of love he felt. They had accepted him so willingly, sharing their lives with him and bringing their light into his dreary world. By the time the table was set and dinner was served, Lillian joined them, looking fresh and less tired. Her scent, mingled with coconut shampoo, drowned Noah's nose. His arms twitched with the need to hold her tightly and bury his nose in her damp hair. They had Jennifer's lasagna accompanied by the twins' lively chatter. Noah would give anything to have the rest of his evening spent this way, with love and laughter and warmth. Long after the twins settled into bed and the kitchen was clean, Noah and Lillian sat on the steps of the front porch side by side. Lillian, bundled up in a pink robe and a blanket, peered at him. "Are you really not cold?" Noah shook his head. "I'm fine." She shivered and pulled the blanket tighter around her. It was nearly summer. Noah wondered how she'd deal with the winter nights here. He made a mental note to buy sets of winter appropriate for humans. "I wanted to watch your first sparring session, but I had a sudden important call." She snorted, scooting closer until her side touched him. "You didn't miss much. Blake literally ran circles around me until I collapsed on the ground. The poor guy didn't know what to do with me." "What was your call about? Any news from the council?" Noah wrapped an arm around her shoulders. She sighed and settled her head against his shoulder. Noah's body relaxed at the feel of her tucked safe in his arm. "The council will convene in a few days. I got a call from Arthur." "Arthur as in Arthur?" Noah smiled. "Yes, Arthur. He wants to come visit before the council." "Wow, I didn't know you guys were that chummy." "We're not particularly." His mate made the decision. "Ellie's fond of me, so to speak. It bugs Arthur a great deal. Because you guys are friends." Noah debated whether to tell her or not. Decided he should. "I might have had a little crush on her before." Lillian looked up at him through narrowed eyes. "Her before," he repeated. "Okay." Noah smiled. Lillian rolled her eyes, but her own lips twitched up. "I'm glad my vexation is a source of great amusement to you." Noah kissed her head. "Ellie's. You'll see when you meet her. You two are a lot alike. In many ways. I have a feeling you will be good friends." "When are they coming?" Lillian asked. "In today's time. They'll be staying in the pack. There are some guest cabins a little ways from mine. Out of the pack village, yes. Out of the pack village. Only the most trusted are allowed in the heart of our pack. And Arthur is not one of them." Noah sighed. "It's complicated. Arthur is a man of great honor. But being responsible for the mass of vampires in the Americas, being one of the most powerful immortals in the world, his priorities might not always align with ours. It's always best to be cautious." Lillian grinned and settled her head back on his shoulder. "Well, I can't wait to meet them."